Good morning, everyone. Today is the second class of our 3D and Blender digital sculpting. So for today, we are going to start to use 3D and import your model into 3D transform that one into voxel, and start to using some basic command to refine, to design, and to sculpt the detail of your model. That's the process for today. Before we start to do the tutorial and the practice, we have to introduce some important idea for you guys. So first things, what's the difference between voxel and surface sculpting? Well, probably you guys haven't heard this word before. Voxel, you can just imagine this one as a 3D type of pixel. It's just like a 3D pixel, and all of your model will be composed by this kind of little box. And you can use your brush, your pen, your mouse to transform that. So basically, I think the voxel sculpting will be very similar to the physical clay sculpting. You can just imagine voxel, a bunch of voxel is very similar to clay model. And you can using your different device to control the shape of voxel. And here are some important features of the voxel. First thing is no dependence on typology. Basically, for voxel model, there's no typology. It's not like a mesh or polygon model. You don't have to worry about the typology part. And second thing is highly deformable. Just like the clay model, you can transform that one without almost no restrictions. And third thing is dynamic remeshings. What's that mean? It means that because the voxel sculpting is just like a big chunk of clay. So if you want to transform that one into mesh or polygon model, well, you can using your own design to do the retouple based on the need of the model and design the typology, design the wireframe by yourself. So it's a dynamic remeshing way. And also, it's very suitable for conceptual creation because for conceptual creation, if the conceptual artist has to take care of the mesh, typology, wireframe, well, it will be so time consuming and so annoying. So it's very good for making the conceptual art, like the game conceptual art or movie conceptual art. You can do the things you want without any restriction. Okay, so it uses voxel for represent the models and more suitable for conceptual design. I think that's the feature of the voxel sculpting. And for sure, voxel sculpting also has some, well, disadvantage. First things, voxel sculpting is very heavy. So compared to surface sculpting, well, it relies on better equipment, like better graphic card or better CPU, etc. That's the first thing you guys have to remember. And second thing, in the end, you still have to transform the voxel into mesh, into polygon, so that it can be used inside like game engine Unreal or Unity or Blender. So that will be the disadvantage. But well, things always has its pros and cons. So for this time, I think we still can try to using voxel for sculpting. It's more manually and also more intuitive. Okay, second thing, let's talk about surface sculpting. Basically, surface sculpting is more like that kind of traditional polygon sculpting. It just has more phases. So you can have a direct control of your typology. You can try to manipulate that kind of little vertex by yourself using a manually way. And also, surface sculpting compared to voxel sculpting, well, it's better to do that kind of geometric details, like the sci-fi patterns or probably some mechanical pattern. Well, for that part, well, surface sculpting is better than voxel sculpting. Because for voxel sculpting, if you want to represent that kind of detail, it relies on very high resolution voxel. So it will increase the loading of your computer. So that's the things. But also it has some disadvantage. For example, like the surface sculpting, if you want to do a more probably highly transformed model, you have to manually manage the mesh and typology by yourself. So it's not that intuitive at all. It still requires some basic polygon model technique. Okay, so here is the feature. Based on fixed polygon mesh, suitable for worlds that require high level of detail and mesh structures. So which means that it's good for game engines or animation. But if you want to make something more artistic sculpture, probably it's not that good at all. But usually right now all the software has this kind of two technology together. We can use in voxel sculpting, meanwhile do the surface sculpting as well. But there is one little interesting thing. As far as I know, yeah, for now there are so many sculpting software in the market, like ZBrush, Moobus, 3D even Blender. But the only one which can use voxel for sculpting, well, there's only one software. It is 3D. You can just directly use voxel for sculpting, and all the rest, including 3D, including ZBrush, including Blender, and other software. Basically, they are just using voxel as a retypology tools, not for sculpting. So that's the interesting things for 3D. You can just directly using voxel for sculpting. So yeah, let's try it for this semester. Okay, second thing that is very important for you guys to know, the working pipeline for these 7 weeks. So for the first part of this semester, we are going to using 3D code for sculpting. So which means that you guys are going to learn how to use in voxel command to do the sculpting. And we are going to do the basic model inside Blender. Basically, we are just using some online resource and download them and check them inside Blender. After that, we will import your model to 3D code, transform that one into voxel, and start to do the detail sculpting and also do some command practice. Once you finish your model, then we will start to do texture painting. But it's not like that kind of UV painting or regular texture painting. It's more like vertex paint, which means that the color and also the texture will be recorded on every vertex. So you don't have to worry about the UV map. It still can work. And the interesting part of 3D Core is that it can directly back your model and also meanwhile do the retypology, do the texture backing into your 3D model. So we will finish the back and the retoggle inside 3D code and finally back to Blender and do the rendering scenes. So that's the whole process for the first 7 weeks. But there is an important thing you guys have to remember. Because in order to do the retypology and export the model and texture to Blender, you need to buy a professional version, or at least your software cannot be expired. So I still recommend you guys at least rent 3D code for 3 months or 4 months, and it will be quite enough. Like, it's not that expensive at all, so you can try to rent it or buy it for 3 months. Okay, so finally back to Blender and start to do the rendering. Next thing, for the next half semesters, so which means from 8 weeks to 18 weeks pipeline. Basically, we were working on Blender. We will do the basic figure modeling inside Blender and then basic armor modeling inside Blender. And next things, we have 2 different branch way for you to choose. If you didn't buy 3D code, then you can keep using Blender for detail sculpting. But if you do buy 3D code, well, things will be more easy. We can do the sculpting inside 3D code and also do the texture paint inside 3D code using the tools that we have inside 3D code, which named Smart Material, to do a PBM material painting. And for the UV map painting, well, you can do that inside Blender as well, but it's not that intuitive. You have to deal with the shared editor to deal with this kind of procedure texturing, so it's a little bit annoying, not that manually. So finally, back to Blender to rig. So for this semester, I won't put too much time on rigging. That's the things we have taught in the last semester. So But I will give you guys a skeleton so that you can quickly make a rig for your model. And if you don't know how to do that, at least you can use Mixamo to do that. And finally, finish the rendering. That's the overall process for this semester. And in the end of the semester, you will get two projects. One is a sculpture from 3D. Another one is a rig model inside Blender. That's our target for this semester. Okay, so that's the whole things you have to remember. Just like what we mentioned before, for this class, actually the command and also the software technique is not that important at all. The most important things will be the aesthetic, your understanding about aesthetic, and also the human artistic anatomy. So that will be harder, way more harder than sculpting. Okay, so that's it. Let's get started about the tutorial for today. Okay, let's get started. The first thing is let's open up your Blender. The Blender version I use is Blender 4.21, long-term supported versions, and you can use the same one just like me. Let's go to File, choosing Import, and choosing OBJ. That's the file I'm going to import to Blender and 3D Code. So let's choose this one. And you can download this case on my cloud drive. Sculpt. Okay, so now we have. And let's delete all the rest of things. We don't need them now. Okay, just leave the code. Just leave the scope. And right now, as far as you can see, it's not in the world center. So it's better for you to bring your model to the world center. Otherwise, if you export this model and bring them to some other software, probably it will float away. You cannot see that on your viewport. So let's bring this one back to the world center. First thing is, let's bring the center to the mass center. Go to Object, set Origin to Geometry. So now the center has been bring back to the geometry center. Next thing is let's press Shift and S. That's a hotkey inside Blender. Let's press Shift and S on your keyboard and choosing Selection to Cursor. So your model will be bring back to the world origins. Alright, so now I think it's pretty much done. The last thing we have to do is to using a hotkey named Ctrl and A to apply all the change. That's a very important process to make sure all the data has been bring back to the default setting. Let's press Ctrl and A and choosing all transform. Alright, so now you can press N on your keyboard to check the data of this model. As far as you can see, the location, rotation, and also the scale has been bring back to the default setting. Well, pretty much done. Next thing we have to check is that is there any overlapping faces or is there any, let's say, open holes on your 3D model. Let's go to the overlay and click these little buttons and turn on face orientations. Right now it looks fine. And let's go to Edit Mode. You can press your Tab key or go to here, Edit Mode. So let's choosing one vertex. It seems like there are some overlapping face on this model. It's not a good thing. You can press L key to select all the face. And let's press X and choosing face. Alright, so it seems like only the upper part has the overlapping face. It's okay. Let's just choosing the upper part and press X, delete the face. And also here, let's check X face. Alright, so all the teeth, they also have the multiple face. Let's just quickly select all of them. Make sure there is no overlapping. If there's any overlapping face, it will cause problem when we import your model to 3D Code. Okay, press X, face. Alright, pretty much done. Probably we missed one teeth here, but it's okay. Alright, so next thing is, once we have cleaned up the, okay, let me check. Okay, cool. So once we have cleaned up the overlapping face, next thing we have to check is that is there any red color on your model. If there is any red color, it means there is an open hole on your model. For example, if I delete the face right here, well, you can see that the inner part is red. It means it's the inner face, and the blue one is the outer face. So if you have this kind of open holes, and when we bring your model to 3D Code, well, 3D Code cannot recognize where is the outer face and where is the inner face, so that it cannot help you to transform your model into voxel. So we have to carefully check that, make sure everything is closure and your model is a closure mesh. Alright, so but right now everything is blue, so it looks pretty fine. Let's bring this one to 3D Code. Go to File, Export, and let's choose OBJ one more time. And for this time, just choosing selection only. We don't need the rest. So I will put them here, using them to replace the original model. Okay, pretty much done. So now we can bring your model to 3D Code. Okay, so now we are inside 3D Code. Let's take a look about the user interface. My version of 3D Code is 2023. Probably for you guys, you will use the 2024, but it's pretty much the same, so don't worry about that. If there is any user interface difference, well, you can just check the name and check the locations and try to find out where it is. So no worry about that. The function and idea are pretty much the same. So let's turn off the 3D Code welcome page. We don't need that. So let's take a look. Inside 3D Code, we have many different panels. As far as you can see, we have painting, tweak, UV, retopple, sculpting, render, features, keybash, and also photogrammetries. So there are many different functions in panel inside 3D Code. And for this semester, the major things we will use is painting, sculpting, retopple, and also render, probably in case. Usually I don't do the rendering inside the 3D Code, but if you want to finish everything, all of your work inside 3D Code is also okay. Alright, so the first thing is let's go to Sculpt. That's the things we are going to use. So we have to import our model into 3D Code and transform that one into voxel. Let's take a look. The first is you have to find the sculpt tree. Basically, we will use this one to control and manage your model. And take a look about the icon here. The I means the visibility, and the circle means the shade, the shader. And the V means voxel. And you can change and switch the layer, the object inside this layer, in between voxel and surface. Let's take a look. Let's go to File and choose Import. And the things we are going to use is Import Mesh for Voxelization, this option. So let's click and go to find your model. Okay, so right now it's too small, so we can enlarge this one. And you can using this panel to control the basic setting of your importing model. Let's choose an auto scale. Okay, so now it has been enlarged. Or you can just simply using this controller to enlarge your model. Okay. And also, once you enlarge this one, it will show you the estimated polygon, which means how many faces you have, how many voxel you have. And right now the position is in the world center, so it is fine. And also let's respect the negative value is okay. And for the rest of the part, we don't have to change that. There is an option which names import W and thickness, which means that if you have open face, probably like the model you have is a vase model without any thickness. You can increase the thickness inside 3D Code, so you still can transform that one into voxel. But in this case, since our model is a closure mesh, so we don't have to check that. Once you finish, it's just choosing Apply. Okay, and for this part, you can just choose in yes. Alright, so now this model has been transformed into a voxel. Okay, if your model doesn't have enough details, probably it means that you don't have enough face and a voxel inside. So you can just simply enlarge your model, right? If your model is bigger, then you will have more voxel inside, but also it will increase the loading of your laptop. Okay, but what's the things I mentioned before? We can switch in between Surface and Voxel. You can just simply click this button, and now this model has been switched to Surface. S means Surface, and V means Voxel, and they have different interface. If your model is Surface, the brush you have and also the tool you have will be different. And if you turn this one to voxel, as far as you can see, it will tell you how many polygons you need to have. And also, once you change this one to voxel, as far as you can see, the brush is different from surface. So that's a very important thing you have to remember. So next things, before we start to do the sculpting, I need to do some basic introduction for you guys. So first things, let's take a look about the navigate. Inside 3D, you can do the navigation uh, just using the Maya or 3ds Max setting. And if you are a ZBrush user, you can also use in ZBrush setting. So let's take a look. Let's move your mouse icon to here, click this camera, all right? Click this camera, and you can choose in custom skin. And there are many different ways you can choose. 3D, Maya, soft image, or ZBrush like. For me, I'm a Maya user, so I prefer to use in Maya. All right, and also you can see that it also has some hotkey like the number 2, number 8, or number 4. You can use in this way to change your viewport to top view, right view, bottom view, etc. So very easy and very common and very easy to use. And also right here, there are something important things you can use. For example, you can turn on or turn off the grid. You can turn on or turn off the coordinates. And also you can change your viewport to perspective and isometric, up to you. And here is the home view. So you can use this one to easily go back to the default viewport. And for this one, you can use this to focus, to choose in the whole object to focus on all object. And for that one, you can focus on certain point. So you can try to play around with this button, but I would say probably after this semester, after 1 times or 2 times practice, well, you can get used to that. And for the Maya setting camera navigations, well, basically it's all related to auto key on your keyboard. Using auto key, hold on your auto key and your left mouse button, and you can do the rotations. Okay, using your auto key and left mouse button, and you can do the rotations. Using auto key and right mouse button, and you can zoom in and zoom out. And finally, using auto key and your middle mouse button, and you can do the pan, just like this. Zoom in, zoom out, pan, and rotations. Okay, so basically that's about the navigation. And usually, if I need to transform the viewport, I will just simply click this button, and you can switch in between the isometric view and perspective view. For this class, we will use them both. And next thing is very important because our model basically is a symmetry model. So let's go back to the front view. First thing is we have to turn on the symmetries. So you can turn on toggle symmetries. Actually, I have already turned on this one. Let's turn off this one first. Let's turn on toggle symmetries. And show symmetry plan. Okay, so click this one and you can turn on the symmetry. And also toggle symmetry is the one you turn on the symmetry functions. So choosing this one first and then choose one second. Next thing is you can start to choose which direction you want to use for as the mirror plane. So we can choose an X, so you can do the sculpting on only one side, and for the other side, well, it will have the reflections on the other side. Press Ctrl Z to go back to the last command. Right, and if you want, you can turn on the Y as well, Z as well. Alright, and also right now the default setting is the 0 point. That's the mirror point for your model. But if you want to do the customized mirror point, you can just pick by yourself. Click this button and you can click it. Okay, so that's it. I think that's the default setting for 3D Code. For the next part, we can start to do the sculpting. So for the next part, the things we are going to do is about to set up the hotkey for our brush. So as far as you can see, well, here is all the brush that we can use for voxel sculpting. Just like what we said before, if you change your model into surface, the panel, the icon right here will be different. So please remember that. Right now we are under the voxel sculpting mode. So there are so many different brushes that we can use, but actually the most common using one probably only around 7 or 8. So I'd like to set up a panel that can store the most common use brush. You can press your space key, and here that's the quick access that we can go through. We can select all the different type of brush. And let's choosing something that we will use the very often. So probably first one, base brush, you can drag them to here. And second thing, fill, that's very useful. You can using that for fill the holes or using that to smooth your object. Well, that's it. And smooth, that's also very useful. And what else? Let me check. Here, primitive. And also gumbos. Let's take a look. Here, transform gumbos, just like rhinoceros. Alright, and what else? Fill. And also one of my favorite, airbrush. I think that's all, pretty much done. So base, clay, fill, smooth, primitive, transform, airbrush. That's all. And if you want, you can also bring a smudge inside. It's also very useful. So for the rest of the part, well, just in case if you need them, you can bring them here. Also, probably we can bring the glow to here. Okay, let's take a look. Base clay, fill, smooth, primitive, transform, airbrush, smudge, grow, and okay, I have 2 grow. Oh, it's okay. Alright, anyway, that's all. That's the quick access for all the important brush. So let's get started. The things I want to do actually is pretty simple. I want to make a probably cyberpunk model. So the things we are going to do, we will using some default setting, default model inside 3D Code. And we can using that to enrich and add some detail on our model. And also we will using the different type of brush to do some manually sculptures. So we can use in that way to enrich the detail of our model. And finally, once we finish the head part, we will make a probably like a face mask and finish the body part and finish the entire statues. That's the idea. So first things, I want to change the material of the sculpts. So let's go to here and we can change this one to probably something like this and click OK. But please remember, this one is only for preview, and it's not the PBM or let's say material bowl. It's just a preview shader, so it's different from the real material. It's just for preview. Okay. All right. Let's get started. So first things, let's try to using. You can press your spacebar and call out the quick access one more time, and then let's choose in airbrush. And using your right mouse button, and you can scale up and scale down your brush. And hold on your right mouse button, and you can see there is a little red arc show up. That's the tips of your brush. So if you increase this more, the things you draw will be higher. Let's see, let's increase this one. Okay, so you can see that this one is stronger and this one is weaker. So that's the things. Alright, let's undo. Ctrl Z, undo this one. I want to make some patterns, so let's try to do some manually pattern. And you can hold on your Control key to engraving your model. Alright, if you just directly draw, well, it will be extrude. And if you hold on your Control key, and all the things will be engraving. Okay, just like this. So let's quickly draw some pattern on your skulls. And also for sure we can make some needles. Alright, cool. And also here, let's try to do that. Hold on your right mouse button and scale down. And also right now I'm using engraving, so you need to hold on your Control key. Alright, so I think that's it. So the key point is that first thing, the brush we use is airbrush. It's a very smooth and also very useful brush. Unlike the glow or unlike the base brush, I think the result that we make with the airbrush is more smooth. And we can hold on Control key to engraving your sculptures. And you can using right mouse button. Once you drag to the left side or right side, you can scale up or scale down your brush. If you push your brush up, then you can increase the tips of your brush. Okay, so that's it. Let's try to do some detail. And I will do that in a very quick way, so you can just follow my way or follow your own design to do that. Okay, so probably something like this. But you may wonder, so do we have to draw everything in a manually way? Actually, we also have some other different tools that can help us to refine the hard surface sculpting. So for example, let's go to here, all right? There are two different types of brush. One thing is the brush setting. You can use in the different type of brush right here. For example, this one or that one, and they will have the different type of sections. So for example, if we choose this one, so let's see, the things you draw will be looks like this. So basically, the shape of the brush is just like the section of the things you draw. Okay, let's undo this. And another one, let's go back to the default. Another one is about the stroke. We can usually the default setting is just like this. The pressures and also the radius of the brush is pretty equal. So all the pressure is the same. And also you can use this one. If you have the drawing panel, then you can use this. So in the end part, it will be slightly dissolved in the end part and also the beginning part based on the pressure setting of your brush. And for sure, if you want to draw some straight line, we can use this one. Let's try this. For example, right now I'm going to draw a straight line here. So you can just simply click to draw the straight line so that it will be an easier way for you to create that kind of super straight or super dramatic scenes. Okay, so you can try to play around with this couple different settings, including the brush. Not only about this kind of default setting brush, you can also play around with this kind of dot brush. So for this one, you can use that to create some kind of dissolving or probably some corrupting effect. That would be pretty cool. And in the end, although we cannot, it is impossible for us to transform all these things into real geometry. But we still can back them to your normal map and to show these details on some low poly models. That will be the key process for using the high polygon model to the low polygon models. Okay, let's undo this one and let's quickly finish the basic pattern. Okay, I think that's it. I think so far the patterns on the skull looks pretty cool. So I will stop right here. And next things we can somehow using the airbrush to strengthen the detail of the skulls. So let's open up the quick access. Press your space bar. And I will still will using the airbrush. And if you want, you can also try to using grow. Let's using the grow, okay? Let's using the grow, probably will be better. So let's change the pressure and make this one slider and scale down the brush. Turn this one into the first stroke. Then I'm going to strengthen the border of your sculptures so that it will look more realistic and full of details. Okay, so I think it is pretty much done. Probably you guys may wonder, why do we have to use ZBrush to strengthen the original shape one more time? Why do we have to create these kind of patterns on the geometries? Well, first things you have to understand. So far it looks nice, but once we back the model to low poly model, some detail will lose. So we have to increase more details on the original model first, so that when we back all this detail to normal map, it won't lose the resolution, it won't lose the qualities. So that's the reason why we have to do that. Alright, so now we have such a beautiful detail, we can try to using another little brush to increase the texture. Something like, well, probably rusty or maybe some dissolving or corrupting effect on the metal geometries. Let's use this one. And if you drag, well, it will become something more like probably a rusty effect. Okay, pretty much done. So now we have the very detailed increase patterns on our skulls geometries. Next thing, we can try to extrude some little patterns on this one. Right now, all these things they are engraving, and if we just directly using draw or using airbrush and draw that, well, it will look like more organic things. So, but I want to have a very solid and hard surface geometry. So how can we do that? Well, for this case, we can use in extrude. So let's press quick access and let's choose in extrude. Where is extrude? Let's find out. It's supposed to be here. Okay, so let's use an extrude to extrude the patterns. So first thing, let's choose this one. And second thing, let's change the shape to something like the polygon selections, like this one or that one. Let's use this vertex lasso. You can use in mouse to draw the shape you want. And next thing is let's choosing some hard boulder brush. So for example, let's choosing this one. So you can see that the boulder, it has a very solid color on that. So it means when we draw, the things will be looks more like a solid geometry, just like this. Alright, so let's try to do that. Okay, so first things I want to redraw this one. Okay, so now we have a hard solid geometry on our model. And for this, I want to do the same things. Sorry, I cannot see where is the boulder. That's the problem with the 3D code. Let's undo that. Okay, nice. And if you want to engraving some more solid and also more sharp holes on your geometry, it's also possible. Let's try to do that. Hold on your Ctrl key and you can just draw. Okay, so that's it. Alright, so I think right now the basic skull looks pretty nice. So the next things I want to do is to put some other elements on our skulls. So for example, maybe on the eye part, we can put eyeglasses, a metal cyberpunk eyeglasses on that. And also in the backside, we can put some machine like engines or like some equipment on the backside. So that would be pretty nice. We can simply using the model assets inside 3D Code. You can go to here and you can see there is an icon that it contains a lot of different model here. And choosing this one, let's go to geometries, like parts, I think. Plans, Miss, Gribble. I think Gribble will be nice. Okay, let's using Gribble. Right here, there are some default model inside 3D Code that we can use. If you want to compose some kind of robotic machines, or maybe some cyberpunk stuff, or maybe fantasy character, you can just directly using the model we have and just base on lot to do the detail sculpting. This time I want to use this, the engines. But as far as I can see right now, this one is too huge. Let's choosing auto scale, and somehow it will help us to scale down the model. But the problem is that, so for now, it's not located in the center. So just like what we did before, when we are working on our skulls, we have the same quite problem, but we already fixed that inside Blender, right? So for this time, we have to fix that inside 3D Code. First thing is choosing auto scale to scale down the model. Second thing, choosing to center mask, so it will help us to put the center point to the center geometries. So now let's move this geometry to the right positions. Rotate this one, and you can hold on your control key so that the rotation will be based on 90 degree, 45 degree, etc. Let's enlarge this one. Okay, pretty nice. Let's move this one inside. Okay, so once you finish, first thing is I want to create a new layer to put this model, because I don't want them be put together. If you just choosing this layer and click apply for this engine model will be put inside this layer, and these two will be merged together. It's not a good thing for you to manage your model. So let's choosing this icon, click plus, and let's create a new layer. Let's call this one deco, and then choosing apply. So now we have it. Okay, this one is a true model. But meanwhile, if you turn off this one, basically, well, your model still looks like this. It's supposed to have some holes or some crease, some joint to put the decoration engines, right? Like here, this is the pipeline go inside into the scope. So I hope that in this part we can have some holes or some engraving pattern, so that it will look like one. It looks like this engine has inserted deeply into the skulls. So let's go back to here. And for this time, I want to choosing subtract. So it will just do the Boolean operation for us. So it will cut off the model from the skulls. So take a look. So that's the result. All right. So, okay. So now we have, let's go back to the brush. Let's using airbrush one more time. So right now the border is too sharp. So let's using airbrush, and you can hold on your control key to create some pattern on the border. Make the model looks more like organic stuff. Basically, if I want to say frankly, it will look pretty disgusting. But that's the result, that's the effect we want to have. Okay, cool. And also for the hole right here. Okay. Next things, let's using fill to help us to fill some area and also smooth some area. The fill and smooth is very similar. You can using smooth to polish the surface of your model, And for fill, you can use this one to fill some gap or some holes. Meanwhile, you can use this one to polish your model. But compared to smooth, I think this one is more, well, it's more useful because smooth usually it will be too strong and it will immediately wipe out all the detail you have. So I prefer to use this one. Let's choose it fill. Then hold on your control key and we can start to smooth the border of this model. Okay, looks nice. And also here, I want to smooth them. All right, let's turn on the engines. So the engine looks nice. We can give this one a shader, a preview shader. Let's go to here and assign a preview shader, probably like the copper or something, up to you, right? So now we have it. Okay, so pretty much done. For the next time, the things that I want to do is to use in alpha map to create some detailed patterns on the geometry. It's not like the brush. The things we can do with the brush is limited. With the alpha, you can customize your alpha map and to do many different kinds of patterns, customized pattern for your model. And also we will start to add on more detail, this kind of mechanical stuff on our skulls. That will be the progress for the next time. Okay, so that's all for this time. Thank you for watching. See you next time.